Hey everybody, it's Pastor Evelyn. Today I'm going to do a teaching video of a skill that I learned from Phillips Chapel Quilting Ladies yesterday. It's called Flip and Sew. So this is one way to put together a quilt, and I'm just going to today do a quick video on teaching the skill. So this is a sample that I worked on yesterday, and I'm just going to go through the layers with you and show you what we got going on here. So this is a sample size, not the full size, of this is the backing, this is the batting, and here's your rows. So one thing that I want to start teaching has to do with the size of our rows, because this is flip and sew. So I want you to start thinking in terms of 6.5 inch blocks. When you sew two 6.5 inch blocks together, you're going to end up with a 6 inch finished. So I don't want you to get hung up on the math. So the quarter and the quarter ends up getting lost, and you end up with a finished 6 inch block. So this is a rail fence, and I have an example of this with the pattern that I did for my first quilt. So I have a finished product of this particular pattern already done. So I want to teach you what I learned yesterday, how to sew this together, flip as you go. So the key here is learning how to sew in a row. So you can make your design. For example, this could be solid all the way across, one solid strip, 6.5 inches wide. That is the magic number. Can't be wider than 6.5 inches for this method. So we're looking at making a row, and you can pick your design, which could include solid strip right here. It could be a square. Could be a design with half square triangles. These are 2.5 inch strips sewed together and turned to make a design. Okay, so you decide what your design is going to be, and then you lay it on top of your backing, which is the size of your project, batting. All this is larger than what you need, so that you could come back and you've got something to hold on to while you're working. So that's enough explanation on that. Main thing right here is you're looking at a 6.5 inch row. This, the way my hand is moving, this is the width of my project. This is the length of my project. So you can decide, how wide do I want my project? How long do I want my project? Okay, so you can get that figured out. So sew yourself 2 rows. Just get them ready. So I've got 2 rows sewed. So once I got my 2 rows sewed, I laid them on top, right side to right side. I laid them on top of the backing and the batting. I gave myself some margin here, squared it out, and this is the top row across my fabric. Let me get oriented. Top row across my fabric. Okay, so lay that down nice and flat. Then you're going to stitch right here and back stitch a little right here. So you're going to sew 1/4 inch. That was just like magic. Sewing this row to row. This is called flip as you go. Now watch what happens here. I have my first row. I just sewed one seam. Now I have attached and quilted my second row. I'm going to flip this over and let you see the back side. So here is my line that's holding all 3 layers together. So the key on the flip and sew is you can't go wider than 6.5 inches right here. So you can make a square or a strip, whatever design you like. You're going to go across the width of your project, put right side to right side, sew this together, open it up, and then the next really important step is take this to the ironing board and very nicely press this completely flat on the outside, then flip it over and flip and press the other side. You want this just nice and flat. So on this particular design, the rail fence, and I have done a few of these, so I've had some practice at this. When you're laying your right side to right side, it does matter where this right here lands. So if you want it to line up just right, you're going to be paying close attention right here on your seam. So you're actually going to lay right side to right side, row to row, and you're going to put a pin in on top of that seam, for example. See right there? I'm putting that pin in that seam, getting this ready to sew. So I'm going to match that, match that, match that, and I'm going to also pin that just to make sure it doesn't scoot around where I don't want it to. So, for example, in a demonstration, this would be ready to sew, perfectly lined up. Okay, I'm going to open this up and show you again how this pays off. So if you're paying attention, you're going to be matching at this point. You're going to be matching at this point, matching at this point, nice and square. And all of this is going to be a finished 6-inch block. So right now it's 6 1/4 because this side still has to be sewed. So if I have another row sewed ready to attach, I'm going to flip it just like this. The next row right here, you're going to lay it right here, right side to right side. It's going to look like this. And I'm going to stitch it, pin it carefully, stitch it. I'm going to open it up. Then I'm going to press, 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 flip it over, press, press, press. If you skip that step, you're going to have bubbles on the back. That's not going to be good. So here's the big shift in our technique. We're trying to get you to start thinking about 6 1/2-inch blocks and 6 1/2-inch rows so that we can get you moving in your quilting project, really making some beautiful designs. So you can start thinking about that size of 6 1/2 is the maximum. So let's just say you've got, in your head, you've already got something picked out in the pre-cuts, like you've already got some colors picked out. But now that you've seen this technique, you would like to use the colors that you had picked out in the pre-cut, but they're in 10-inch blocks. So now what do? Well, you can decide if you want to do the first example that I did, quilt as you go, or if you'd like to try the flip and sew. So I'm going to put this on here. And I'm gonna see if I can blow this up a little bit where you can see me working. Y'all are really very patient with me when I'm trying to get set up. Thank you for all that. Thank you for being patient. I am not a videographer. I am a pastor by trade, but I'm learning how to quilt. So I'll teach you what I learned yesterday. Here we go. Let's just say you have a 10-inch block. So I'm going to get in here where you can see me. I'm pretty sure if I keep my hands around this area right here, you're going to be able to see me. So I have lots of blocks that are already pre-cut, 10 inches. And you say, oh, I love this idea of what you just said about quilting as you go. So right now, I can lay out my 10-inch block, take my block lock, and I'm gonna count over 6.5 right here on my block lock, both ways. So I squared this onto my mat. This is square, this is square. Now I'll lay my 10-inch on here, and I'm taking my block lock square, and it could be any square. I've got more in the house that are just regular squares. So I'm lining it up where it says 6.5 right here, 6.5 right here. Isn't that beautiful? Watch this. I'm gonna cut this. And I'm actually going to cut that whole length right here in case we want to use that other piece. Watch this. All right, that is not all the way through. This we're going to lay aside. Okay, we're going to get this square right here. Getting ready to have a 6.5-inch square. Finish that off. Okay, here is my first square. Now, if you like the split rail look, watch what you can do. You can take a 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, cut them to length, 6.5, sew it here, sew it here. All of these are 1/4-inch seams, and you can lay it out in a design like this. Then you're ready to sew that. Always put your right side to right side. You're going to sew that 1/4 inch. Then you open it up. It's going to look like this, opened up. So to move things along, just showing you another how to adapt what we've already been doing. I've got 3 10-inch squares that are really nice and square already. I'm going to lay them right here on my mat. This side is true, this side is true. And I'm going to cut them like I just did. I'm going to cut them down to size 6.5. And this block lock square makes it so easy. So I'm laying it out, and I'm just reading over right here where it says 6.5, and I'm reading right here where it says 6.5. And I'm gonna do my first cut up like this, and I'm gonna do my second cut using the long ruler so that I can still use that top piece if I want to. I just got off my ruler. That was bad. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. I might have just ruined this. If you get off your edge, look what can happen. So I might not be able to use that, but I can use it for an example. I'm going to square that off with the block lock. It'll be good enough for me to show you what I'm doing. I do better when I'm cutting towards me instead of cutting away from me like this, where I can pull the rotary cutter up towards the edge. And when I was trying to cut just then, I pulled away. So that was not good. That was a mistake. Okay. For the purpose of demonstration, watch this. Let's just say you want to put together a 6-inch row, and you think, oh, well, I'd like to put a little design in there. Out of my 10-inch block, I can cut these 2.5 inches. Watch this. I can make a 2.5 inch. I'll just lay it out like this, it'll be easier. Cut that 2.5. Cut this 2.5. Cut this 2.5. Then sew them together. And you can have the design a square, and you can mix in a pattern in your design. And it's going to end up being a finished 6-inch block if you use 2.5-inch strips. So you can flip it that way, or you can flip it this way. You can rotate your colors around to make a different design. So if you like having more design, you can cut into 2.5-inch strips, sew them together. This just happens to be some 2.5-inch strips sewed together. Remember, I started with a 10-inch square, and I'm just lopping off a 6.5-inch block out of it. So that's our new magic number, 6.5-inch blocks. We are looking to make things easy, trying to make it simple for you. 6.5-inch block, 6.5-inch block, 6.5-inch block, 6.5-inch block. These are not colors I'd want to use together. I'm just showing you that pattern. I would use this color, I would use this color together. And those are ready to sew. So I think I'm going to go to the sewing machine. I'm going to sew those, and then I'll be ready to put it on the sample quilt for you. All right, here we go. Hope everybody's having a good day. This is kind of a long teaching video. We're doing a flip and sew. So keep up with the orientation of how you want this to line up. These are right now 6.5-inch squares. I'm gonna sew them on 1/4 inch. See if I've got everything cut on. Yes. I love that. I love the way that turned out. Now I'm going to sew another one. And I'm just going to do 4 squares, maybe 5 for my sample. Notice how I'm holding my thread when I start. You're letting the machine do all the pulling. You're not pushing it in. This is my 1/4 inch guide. I'm going to sew these together. And however I want my design to be. I think I'm going to put the bright next to the flower. So you're going to put your right side to right side. That's important to remember. Bright to bright, right to right. That's how you can remember it. Bright to bright, right to right. I'll work on my row. And I am going to look for a little bit more work to add on there. I don't have another one cut. I'll just have to stop right here. So my next step is ironing. I'm going to take this over to the iron. I'm going to press. This is the project I'm working on. I'm going to press this. All right. You're doing great if you've stuck with me this far. We're doing a flip and sew. I'm gonna back the camera up a little bit, see if I can get all of this in your view. So here we go. Here's the sample. This is the backing. This is the outside of your backing. This is your batting, the middle of your quilt sandwich. Here is your first row, and this is a sample. So I'm gonna leave myself. I'm gonna leave myself 4 or 5 inches extra batting and backing on the outside of my project to give me room to work. So this is not the actual width of it. This is just a sample for demonstration. Let me see if you can see the iron. Okay, if this were our actual project, it would be about twice this wide. So here's what I want you to learn. This is the big thing that I learned yesterday. 6.5 inch row. You sew another 6.5 inch row. Put it on top of it, right side to right side. So if this were a complete row, you would lay it on here. Lay your next row, right side to right side. Lay this on. Then you're gonna take this to the sewing machine. This side's gonna be to your right. This side's gonna be to your left. And you're gonna stitch right here. Or you can start at this side and stitch. Have this to your right, this to your left. You can figure out what works for you. What has to happen is you have to get a seam on here 1/4 of an inch right here. That 1/4 of an inch seam is going to attach your rows. It attaches your rows and it quilts your 3 layers together at the same time. So you can figure out your design, your colors, your patterns. And the reason I'm going right now with the 6.5 is because that is as wide as you can go. So for example, let's say you want to do your new project, you want to do it in 2.5 inch strips. That's fine. You can put on one strip, put the next strip on, flip it over, sew it, iron it, flip it back down, put your next strip on, sew it, iron it, get ready to put your next strip on. So you can go smaller, you can go even down to 1 inch. You can go smaller, as small as you want to, than 6.5. But that's as wide as you want to go for flip and sew. So right now, if I had sewed this, it would look like this. My next row would be attached right here, all the way across, ready to go. So that is a pretty detailed teaching tutorial on flip and sew. I'm so excited to be able to share that with you, and I'll do more in person. So have a blessed day, and I'm going to get this video uploaded later this evening, and I hope that you find it helpful. God bless you.